So I keep seeing this video. I know this video was from 5 years ago. It's Joe Rogan, the problem with refined sugar and carbohydrates. So I wanted to make a video about this just because why not?
Inflammation, the big difference is when I eat a lot of carbs,
Totally.
if I go off the rails and I'll cheat and have pasta or bread or something like that,
This guy is calling cheating on a diet pasta and bread.
experience more inflammation. I experience more soreness in my
What's on the pasta and bread? He doesn't say.
joints. You get more fatigue. You get like tired. You get that
Totally.
insulin crash. You get all those big factors that I
I
don't.
feel like he's got that like assumed lying position that people get.
I just don't get when I eat clean. When I eat just meat and salad and vegetables.
I mean, he just choked on like mucus there.
And high fat diet and low carb,
Like,
my
really?
body is just way more efficient. It
Totally,
feels better. And the big thing that I keep trying to stress to people is you don't need a nap. That fucking afternoon nap, which I just thought is something you need.
Yeah.
All that is just your body recovering from lunch.
Yeah, from carbs.
Yeah, your fucking carbs at lunch. If you don't have that,
It's crazy. He's not defining what a carbohydrate is here. Is it a cupcake that's like 75% fat? Is it water with sugar in it? What is it?
the day is much more efficient. I get more done. I have more energy. You know, it's like,
Now, I will say this. I did keto. So anybody who's going to watch this, doesn't know who I am, says, you know, like I'm just a plant lover and whatever, or whatever it is you're going to say. I did keto. I really did. And you do have this euphoria that kicks in. You even have it if you do OMAD, like 1 meal a day. You'll get that euphoria because cortisol is very high. And it's telling you, like, bruh, need food. Find it for me.
people say, how do
And
you
then you eat meat. And anybody who's going to get mad about me pausing this thing, I can't like exactly just sit here and watch this thing because copyright. But anybody, I forget what I was saying. So let's keep going.
like all these podcasts, 2 podcasts a day. Like, no, I eat good, and it's not hard. It's not hard. Your brain is functioning all day long. But man, if I stopped at noon and had a fucking pizza and then try to do a podcast, I'd be here.
All right, so here we go. So this pizza. Pizza is what? A lot of olive oil, a lot of meat, a lot of fat, a lot of fat, a lot of fat, a lot of cheese. And then you combine that with carbohydrates, but you're going to blame the carbohydrates. But really, the reality is you put yourself in a Randall cycle. What's the Randall cycle? The Randall cycle is if you eat so much fat that your receptor sites on your cells get blocked, your body will keep releasing insulin until it finally gets the carbohydrates that the cells actually want into the cells. And this is an expensive process, and it costs a lot of energy, making you tired.
Like going, oh, is this done yet? I need to sleep.
Like,
Yeah, you just get tired.
Yeah, you get exhausted.
We've been doing this diet since the mid-90s, since like 1993, I think it was, around the time we kind of started. We've been doing them on and off for a long time, and more recently I used it to drop 70 pounds.
It will drop weight quick. It really will, because your body is just shedding everything it can to kind of counterbalance the byproduct that come off of processing proteins. Amino acids is really what you're processing, amino acid. So it has to neutralize it. So your body basically starts dying, and it uses its tissues that it has to neutralize the acids that you're eating because it's too much. It also starts converting a lot of those amino acids into carbohydrates because you have to have carbohydrates. It's kind of like hypoglycemic, you know, like you see somebody bonking at, you know, a race or something like that. They're not low on protein. They're not low on fat. They're low on carbs.
But I think one of the things with keto that I noticed was
We're getting paid for it.
almost doesn't really matter that I'm in ketosis all the time. I think the effort to be in ketosis, I think, is important.
You hear him breathing. He's like, oh, keto's so good.
By getting rid of a lot of the carbohydrates that you have, the effort to kind of eat a little bit more fat. But what I've noticed is I don't think I need to really go out of my way to eat tons and tons of fat. I don't need to be dumping tons of MCT oil on stuff. I don't need to. There's enough fat usually in the steaks that I'm eating. A lot of times I get ribeye. Sometimes I'll eat bacon.
Like really?
Eggs, things like that. I put up on my Instagram the other day about 7 or 8 foods that I thought if you just stuck to these.
I think this guy should put his blood report up on Instagram. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't.
7 or 8 foods for a handful of days, you would lose a lot of weight. And the response was amazing. People were writing back and they're like, holy shit, man, I'd lost 10 pounds. And
yeah, it is easy to lose weight on keto. It really is. Like I can't knock it for that, but the reason you're losing weight is not great.
A lot of people do lose weight off keto. There's no doubt about that. Yep. But even Mark,
see, even he agrees. He even agreed with me, and I'm not the one getting paid
that got me into it. Mark goes on and off, and he thinks there's some benefit to going on and off keto.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be in ketosis all the time.
Ketogenic diet.
Yeah, but even when you go off.
So the diet's so healthy that it's not a good idea to stay on it like all the time. Come off of it because it's not that healthy, or do intermittent fasting because not healthy.
You're not switching your diet to spaghetti. You know, you're not eating, you know, fucking Wonder Bread and shit like that. Like
you would love it if you switched to spaghetti, right? That's your thing. Pasta?
Well, I like it. I like it when I cheat, but I don't like the effect on my body, for sure. I just like the taste.
Yeah, I mean, they're not having just pasta by itself. They're having pasta with every meat that possibly known to man, probably, and olive oil. There's a difference.
Taste of it. Like linguine with clams is one of my favorite things to eat, but the way I feel afterwards is not my favorite feeling.
How about bread and butter? Why is that so good?
Wonderful.
Why is that so good?
It's amazing.
So good.
Again, Randall cycle.
You know, people out in California, they don't even know. We always talk about this, hard rolls. You used to go get like a buttered roll in the morning, and we grew up in New York, so you go get a buttered roll. That was the best.
Bagel with butter?
Yeah, it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And out here, they don't have them, thank God. I'm actually glad they don't have them out
You
here.
know what I've had that I fucking love? Sourdough bread with grass-fed butter and honey.
Grass-fed butter. They took that butter and they fed it some grass.
Oh, my God.
Again, Randall cycle is hitting hard. That's what causes diabetes.
And sourdough is really good.
But honey on top of the butter? Oh, Jesus.
With all this ketogenic...
That sounds amazing.
With all this keto stuff going on, I've been wondering when somebody's going to make some bread. Like figure out...
They have no foods.
It's terrible, though.
It's not that bad. No.
What the hell would you make it out of? Like lard and like sawdust? I mean, what the hell are you going to make that out of?
It is. We're all addicted to sugar.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen those pictures of like people from the 1960s.
All right, so I wanted to talk about that. I really did. I couldn't wait to talk about this. So let's look, like I look up the 80s, you know, it was about the same thing, but let's look at the 80s, if I can find it. All right, so 40 years ago, I'm 43 years old, so I remember the 80s because I was here for the whole thing. 80s, time. You know, I got to look over here. The 80s were the time of low-fat, high-carb diets and trends. And they are making fun of people who ate this diet. And this is what you looked like back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, early 90s, when you ate the diet that was popular.
Beach versus like 2020 on the beach.
All right, so here's the 2020s, right? So 10 to 35% protein and 20 to 35% is going to be fat. Now, how does that relate to the 1980s when it was not popular to have a lot of protein and fat when they were skinny? And this diet from the 80s, you can track this. I mean, I remember growing up in the 80s. Anybody who's watched this that's from the 80s, even early 90s, if you were going over somebody's house, now we were all Irish for the most part, or Slovak. So potatoes is on the plate, but like if we were going over to somebody that was Italian or something like that, they might ask you, you know, what kind of starches that you wanted. Fast forward, I mean, some of these things are down to 45% for carbohydrates, which if you read Pritikin, it says at minimum 80% carbohydrates. This is what you end up looking like. Now, it is not just going to be the diet, all right? We got stuff falling out of the skies. We got plastics everywhere. We got all this other nonsense that we are not, you know, built to handle going into the atmosphere.
And it's like, what the fuck happened?
Oh,
Sugar happened.
Right.
Corn syrup happened.
Yeah.
Processed carbohydrates. That's
That
what
high
happened.
fructose corn syrup is the worst.
Oh, yeah, man.
Kills you.
That's some fat, dude.
Cutting sugars is huge.
Oh, that's it on that. So I wanted to further break this down a little bit. Here is the Japanese food guide, spinning top, whatever you want to call it, reverse pyramid. And they have 5 to 7 grain dishes, 5 to 6 vegetable dishes, 3 to 5 fish and meat, but that also includes soybean, to milk. Now, milk didn't used to be on the Japanese anything, but it was until the mid 80s that the milk really started getting popular over there. And then 2 servings of fruit. All right. I couldn't find a bigger one for the Americans, even though we're bigger. So you got this whole thing, basically the exact same thing, although the servings of fish, meat, and all that is higher. And then you got poultry. I mean, you've got 2 parts of the pyramid just for, fish, meat, and then dairy and all that shit. And then you got, actually, you got three of the pyramid. 3 parts of this pyramid are milk, dairy, eggs, meat. It's ridiculous. And the last thing before we close out here, I wanted to talk about is this chart right here. This chart right here that shows sugar has declined heavily since the 2000s. What has climbed? Obesity. Is any of this making sense to anybody? Really? I mean, if you really look at this, they're blaming sugar for all of this. Now, obesity was actually on the rise even when sugar was on the rise. So what else was causing it? What else was causing it? Was it that we went from the peasant diet to we could all of a sudden afford to live high off the hog and we'd left the sugar behind and the hog stayed on the plate and obesity kept rising? There could be, some of the other stuff I don't even want to mention because, transcripts and all that, but it's crazy. And it's even more nuts because this stuff is all out there. You can go read these, previously what was going on. If you read the China study, when they did the China study, it was at like the late 70s or something like that. They couldn't find a fat person in China, basically. They couldn't find it or person. So anyway, hopefully this video did you some good, a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of knowledge. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Share the video and comments, questions like always down below. Talk to you next time.